Wow, it's been a while, hasn't it? Hey, it's Romania Black, and I have been meaning to get to this volume for about a month now, and my channel's really busy, and luckily, one of the shows that I'm watching is on hiatus for a few weeks, and I was like, what am I gonna do during those few weeks? And I was like, I have extras I can watch, yay! So, I have been following Seraph for a long time now, and we are on volume 30, which is exciting, at chapters 123 to 126, which is so good. I think chapter 128, I have a Viz subscription. I keep it with a few manga on Viz, and I think chapter 128 just came out. So the good news is we'll only have to wait a couple more months before we're ready for volume 31. So that's exciting. But I was so bummed when volume 29 ended, because it was like we just got to like the Full Metal Alchemist style portal of truth, getting ready to find out about Yu's past, what his connection to Mika has been this whole time, finally getting some answers while Rigger is interrogating the first, and then the volume was over, and I was like, well, okay. So it's been a couple months since I've read the volume. I think it's been like 4 months since I've read the last volume, so I had to go back and reread a couple of the chapters. And I feel like myself and a lot of the commenters, we had differing opinions about Shinoa's presence and all this. I'm not crazy about Shinoa right now. I like Shinoa's character a lot, and I get that a lot of people were commenting that Shinoa doesn't understand Yu's plan, and that makes perfect sense. She doesn't know that Yu wants to resurrect everybody. She thinks that he's choosing Michaela over them, and so she has every right to be upset. But I got like, it's such a weird contradiction where the series clearly has made Yu and Mika out to be the canon ship. Like, they're clearly the ship. It's all over the place. But then there's also this like weird heterosexual like agenda thing of like, well, we'll make Shinoa, who by and large has not had a thing for Yu romantically. They've just been platonic friends, which I've loved. And suddenly they're like, oh, we've got to insert this heterosexual couple thing into the series because it's a shonen. And I'm like, why? So the only thing I don't like about it is, one, it kind of contradicts like what their character dynamic has been so far. She's been totally cool with him and Michaela being together, and now suddenly she doesn't want them together, and she suddenly loves Yu romantically, even though she's kind of, I can't say suddenly, but it's just really starting to get heavier. And then my other thing is, it makes her a lot like Maharu, and I'm like, don't be like your sister. Your sister's crazy, and don't make, Yu is not like Gurren. Don't make her like her sister. That's like, I don't like it when creators make like siblings or like a younger couple exactly like the older couple. It's weird. So I was actually happy when this volume decided to take a turn and get away from them to go and focus on Yu and Michaela and trying to find out their past, because that's been the big mystery. Like, what is the deal? Why is Mika in the glass coffin? What is Yu? Is he just a creation that was made by the first to be besties with Mika? Don't know, and we're about to find out. So I did go back and read the chapters, but on the fan Wikipedia, like the fandom page for Seraph of the End, I do like going through and seeing like to find the pictures of the volumes to use for the thumbnails. And the one for 29, I liked the description of volume 29, which I've already read, but it says, just to back everybody up, give them what the last volume was about. Given the choice of two extremes, Yu picks a third option. Instead of following Gurren or the first plans, he'll forge his own path. He takes Mika and leaves Shinoa's squad, vowing to resurrect everybody. But to do that, they have to delve into their past and learn what's really going on. Finally, to make that dive, Yu's going to need a lot of energy, but provisions are scarce. The two resort to devious means to make that happen, but for the sake of saving the world, so it may be worth it. Yeah, and it was hard to see them like choose something that's kind of villainous, but they were just trying to get provisions, and then the talk of the people didn't come about until Shinoa and them got involved. So it's interesting. What do we do? So I'm very curious to see what these chapters will give us. We've waited a long time for backstory, and I hope we're actually starting to get some backstory. That would be nice. And I still have the books to finish, but it's been like a year since I've cracked the books open. I've just been so busy. But I've made it a goal this fall to try and finish the books. I have like 2 left. And so I would like to try to finish the books and this fall do a video about them finally, because I don't don't know. I get a feeling like Seraph at the end is gearing towards its final arc, but I don't know if it is or not. I mean, there's still a lot you could do and say with the series, but I don't know. I like Seraph of the End a lot, and there's a part of me that wants to see it keep going, but then there's another part of me that wants answers, but usually the answers that you're wanting are the stuff you get towards the end of the series, so it's like, what do we do? But I'm really curious to see what happens. I hope y'all are too, but we left off with you opening that damn door. So I guess we need to find out what exactly is going on, shall we? But yeah, I'm excited. I hope y'all are too, but let's not waste any more time. We're going to dive right into Seraph of the End, Volume 30, chapters 123 to 126. And we're going to do that here in 3, 2, 1, and let's go. Well, that is not what I expected at all. Not what I expected at all. No. I like this a lot. I am kind of all on board with this flashback so far. I like the idea that we are going back to like prehistoric times, and that it seems like the angels have been like what's interesting, it seems like there's all these little colonies. Like there's like it's funny, my friends and I have talked for years about the idea of like, is there life beyond Earth? And it seems like the galaxy and the universe is so huge. Of course there probably is, right? It would be silly for there not to be, right? And so I like this idea that, yeah, there's the idea that God has created all of these different realms, and all these planets have just like, there's angels on them, but then all the other, it's like the angels were stationed there, and then they were like stationed there, and then all the other life on the planet has just been like growing around them and evolving around them, which is interesting. I mean, the question of course is, how did they end up there if they've not been there all the time? Because they're building this tower, and they're comparing the tower to other towers on other planets, and it's like whichever one is the biggest gets to go to the sun. There's clearly like a disconnect, and the question is, one, is there even a way for them to get to the sun, or is that just all a lie? Like, is it just, are they stuck there? Because the chapter 123 was all building up the idea of the dinosaurs. And you, of course, I'm with you. I did not plan. I had no clue what this chapter set was going to be about. I did not realize this dinosaur shirt was going to be perfect for it, but fates aligned, stars aligned, right? I like the idea that it captures like Yu's innocence of him being like, oh my god, dinosaurs, and then for a second he thinks he's a dinosaur, and that's where he was in the flashback. I really thought it was gonna be funny if it was Yu a dinosaur and Mika the angel. I thought that would be really cute, and if he was like the little gecko one, but no. Instead he's the homunculus. Or not. That's what's curious about it, right? I'm wondering if the first takes the soul of Mika that is like you and puts it into the homunculus and makes it into you, the you that we know. And it's the one that keeps coming back over and over again. The one that's like, it keeps coming back and he keeps on experimenting with it. The only thing that would be weird about that is that he has killed like you so many times in this story, but yet he wants to keep his son safe. So I don't know if it's the idea that he's trying to find a cure for whatever disease his son has, like the plague, and that he's been trying to like use you to find a cure so he can bring his son back to life. I don't know. Apparently there's been a pandemic though sweep through the angels, and it's killing them all slowly, and the first is trying to find a cure for it. So, I mean, there's a lot of interesting things pointed out in this chapter set. The fact they randomly have ice cream is interesting. And yeah, so if though Angel Mika has Yu's personality and Yu was the homunculus, then where did Mika get his personality from, or was he just his own person? There's a lot of questions with that. I like the callback that all the angels walking around with the spirits and smokes above their head, they look like the angels playing the trumpets. That part's interesting. Now, how the devils get involved with all of this, I don't know if it's just a way for the first to keep bringing back the angels and people he cares about. If making them into demons makes them come back so he can stay with them. I don't know. We're not done with the flashback, which is exciting. But yeah, I like the idea of how, but then you have angels and you have the angel city, but then you have like the side of the earth, it's the pentagram. And it's like, it's combining all these angels and demons concepts and showing that they're basically the same thing, which is fascinating. I'm curious to see what they're going to do with it. I like the fact that Yu and Mika are kids throughout the flashback. I like it. It's a nice callback to the first couple of chapters and the first part of the series. And then I just like Angel Mika's design. Like, he's just so cute with his wings and his little, like, arm and hair. And he just looks really adorable. But yeah, the one thing that I am glad about is that they make you having to go back and keep eating a gag. Like, it's part of the joke that he keeps having to go back and eat food to go back and forth in the flashback. I was waiting for him to get ambushed, and it may end up happening that that's how they get kicked out of the flashback, is that Yu gets ambushed and they don't get the flashback anymore. But I didn't want that to happen in this volume because I was like, I want to see them actually, I want to keep seeing what happens with them and find out what happens in their past. So I'm glad that that's not what ends up happening. But yeah, the old tower and everything. And then they managed to go up to the top. And of course, that's where the first is. I liked some of the facial expressions that they did throughout this. It was really cute. The technology being like, says, project is to return us to paradise. This unrailed elevator technology. And then the first is there. Okay, so we have chapter 1. We have chapter 125 after that. And then I do love the cover a lot. The chapter with the cover is really, really good. I like the crescent moons and you have the sun. So apparently it is the angels are forbidden to create life, but the first created Mika. And that was a big no-no, and he's been trying to hide him this whole time. Okay. Interesting. I thought for a second when Mika started to get sick that the first was going to like, that he was going to like kill Mika and like recreate him, but that's not what ends up happening. So the first is poring over all this data, and we don't know exactly what the deal with it is. And he says the sun's power and darkening it. So I'm wondering if that's like, if it's channeling the power of the sun and using it to create the demons. But they say the sun is paradise, so it's like, are you saying like taking the power of God and using it? Tampering with things we're not supposed to be tampering with, perhaps. Creating servant tribes and resurrecting the dead are against the law. Well, we've done that quite a bit in this series, so, you know, we've been breaking some rules. I do like that they say that the first is a lot like Gurren and doing the same thing that Gurren is doing, and use kind of like, we keep on making the same mistakes over and over again. And that's interesting because that makes me wonder if they're going to tie it all back together. The series has been really good about showing how these characters are all kind of, nobody's really a good guy. They're all kind of morally gray, and that's kind of the point. So I'm wondering if Yu's going to be like, well, both of you kind of want the same thing. So what do we do about that? Do we work together? Where is this leading? I have no clue how this story is going to go. I'm just excited about this flashback. And the idea that the homunculus, that they don't have names. So I'm like, what do they do? What's the point of the homunculus if they don't have names? They're just floating around there? Are they just energy sources that they can use? And he's like, it's sad if they don't have a name. And Mika, yeah, it's like Angel Michaela is like a dog. And then actual Mika is like a cat. And he's like, he acts just like you. I do love the little panel of Mika, Angel Mika squishing the homunculus is the cutest thing. It's adorable. I freaking love it. I'm like, yes. And the first is like, do not name them. When you name a thing, you curse them with a heart. And he's like, but giving them a name is a sign of love. He says it's a curse. If they have hearts, they'll be stuck with concerns and doubt. He's like, then why'd you name me? I'm your child. To curse you, of course. And he's like, no, it's because you love me. Yeah, and I do think it's the latter. I think that the first fell in love with the kid and ended up liking him and gave him a name. And now he's being threatened that he has to kill him because he's an abomination. I do like the homunculus just sitting there staring. It's interesting. The homunculus is like just watching and observing. It's very intriguing, and it's the one that notices Erid coming in at the very end. So what do we do about that? And so he says that Michaela has a weak constitution. I'm like, did he create Michaela as a means of, as an experiment to try and cure the, because he has the same plague that Erid has. So I'm wondering if he created Michaela to try to find a cure for the plague, but now he's grown attached to him and he can't get rid of him. Interesting. I like that he just makes this little trampoline bed pop up out of nowhere to put the kid on. It's real fun. And then he sends him back, saying, once you get bigger, you'll grow up. And I like that both you and Michaela are like, yeah, no, he's going to die, isn't he? He's like, what did you do to me and Michaela? So that's the big question, is how did they... I can see the writing on the wall that the first probably has been transporting through time for if it's been millions of years, so I'm like, is this cycle just repeating itself over and over again? Is the first and Erid and Saito and all of the demon swords and everything, are they just going throughout history and repeating and resurrecting over and over again, trying to finish what they started? That's an interesting concept. But yeah, I want this last chapter here. The fact that it is called, the chapter is called Purgatory and Paradise. I'm like, yeah, so they keep trying to go to paradise, but they're stuck in purgatory. They're stuck in hell. Earth is hell, basically, which is a fun time. And so we see all the angels together, and he's the king of Earth, Sikamadu. And he's like, we received an official report that among the satellite kingdoms, our tower's taller than the others. And our reservoir of photons, the source of our kind's power, is 90% of the target volume. So they have this reservoir of photons. It's their power level. So they've got their power. They're basically making a giant spirit bomb, and it's 90% capacity. So what are we going to do with the spirit bomb after we've made the whole thing? We don't know. They don't tell us that, but they've been gathering all this energy up, which is interesting, and they're 90% of the way there. And our Earth Kingdom is much closer to returning the sun where God awaits upon their throne. Soon we'll finally reach paradise. So yeah, so their goal is to get back to the sun, and everybody's excited. And then Baal and Paimon, which is basically Erid and Saito, come back. And they're like, our wish will be granted. Interesting. And then we have these other angels, Ammon, Belial, Astaroth, Marbus, Bathan, Nabarius, Ram, and Orobus. And they're all basically the weapons, which is amazing. They're cruel, and they're cruel. And then there's the one with the two-toned hair. Yeah, it's basically all the vampires that we've had before in the series are right there. Interesting. That become the weapons and all. How about that, huh? And they've all been angels that are with them. Yeah, the others look familiar. But why do they have different names? And we don't get an answer of why they have different names. We just know that they're angels in this version. In this timeline, they're angels. They have different names. And I like that Yu's like, why would you dive straight into the sun? It's so bright. Why the sun? That seems kind of silly. And they're all like, we'll follow you, your majesty. So they're all like his loyal subjects, following him everywhere. And it seems like Saito and Erid, or Paimon and Baal in this case, are the closest to him. And the experimental subject named Michaela, we have to dispose of it before we reach paradise, or we'll suffer divine punishment. I like that there's just the line of the Tower of Babel that's like bisecting the moon. It looks very interesting. Angels are forbidden from creating life if we don't dispose of it before it's discovered. But the first has grown attached to Michaela. And so he's like, I need a little more time. And yeah, he's grown attached to it, but he's using it to try and save the others. Interesting. Which is kind of curious because it's almost like Gurren getting attached to you. Yeah, I'm digging all this history repeating itself. And then, of course, Saito, or Paimon in this case, is talking about, like, you created the experiment to find a cure for the plague. And he's like, something must be done. He's like, if we don't, by the time we reach paradise, half of us will be dead. And he's like, creating, extending, and reviving life are grave sins. But the first is dedicated. He's like, but I have a task in front of me and I've already decided what I'm going to do. And then it's interesting that Saito's character tries to convince him, being like, look, don't worry about us. Don't concern yourself with us. Save yourself. You're our king. Don't give it all away. And he wants to dispose of Mikaela. But he's like, give me 5 days and I'll dispose of him myself. And he's like, you can tell he doesn't believe him. He's like, are you serious? And I like you, like, as this is going on, you was like, man, a lot of stuff's going on here. So then we have Saito and Erid. And I'm like, I was shipping them before, but I'm like hardcore shipping them now. They've been together forever. They're like the adult versions of Yu and Mikaela. They're like these two angels. And I love the way that Saito's drawn in this. He looks really, really good. He's like, we're going to have to kill Mikaela ourselves. And Erid's like, well, no. He's like, I don't want you to get hurt because otherwise what's the point in us going on if we can't be together? And I'm like, quit being so shippy. Quit being so shippable. You two, go make out somewhere. He's like, so I like that we have the difference of opinions there. Saito believes that they have to get rid of Mikaela, otherwise the king will die, and then they won't be able to go to paradise altogether. But Erid is like, yeah, I'm going to follow his majesty, and if he doesn't want us to do anything, I'm not going to do anything because he told us not to, and I'm sure he has a plan. And so they both disagree on this, right? And so they're like, who do you back? And Erid, yeah, he's like, if we have to die, I want us to be together. And I love that they're just as romantic as the two of them. He's like, but what if we don't save everybody? I like that they clap their hands together instead. I wonder how theirs ends up turning out. And Saito makes note that God isn't forgiving. If we fail, we'll be wiped out. And Erid's like, well, as long as I can die with you, I'm not going to complain. And I'm like, quit being romantic. Quit being so romantic. I love it. And he says, who can say what punishment awaits one who commits the forbidden? I want to protect him from that. So what's interesting here is Saito's like, I don't want the king to get punished. And Erid's like, well, that was his choice. That's not your responsibility to protect him. He's a big guy. He can do it himself. And Saito, a.k.a. Paimon, just can't take it. He's like, no, I got to do something. And so, yeah, they're like, man, this is exactly like what's happening with Gurren. And he's like, well, this is ticking me off. This all is getting repeated over and over again. Does that make this hell? Is heaven where that place they can't reach? And then, of course, Yu says, like, the most cliche, cheesy thing of all time. He's like, heaven's where all your friends are. And it's like, and if this is really hell, then the first has been here a long, long time. Yeah, so that's interesting. Now, I don't know what's going to end up happening with Saito and Erid, but something's going to happen where the first decides to resurrect them all, or what ends up happening, or everything messes up. I'm so curious how this is going to go down. And the first leaves him, and then after the first leaves Mikaela and the homunculus, that's when Saito shows up. Or Paimon coughing and coming to destroy him. Oh man, I hate that I have to stop here. Why? No. Dang it. Not cool. I mean, it was worth it. I really enjoy this flashback so far, and I'm glad we're finally getting some legit... We're getting answers, but there's still more questions, like about the satellite kingdoms, about, you know, like, why are they there to begin with? What's the plague? They're trying to cure everything. It's cool to see that they've all been here since the beginning, but what do we do with this now? What's going to happen? And is Saito going to attack Mikaela? Is the first going to stop him? Is Erid going to stop him? How does this affect the plague that's spreading, supposedly? It sucks that I have to wait, but we already have chapters 127, 128 out, so I just have to wait till chapter 130. So that's only a couple more months. That's not bad. That's not bad. We just gotta wait till around Halloween and then we can read the next volume. That's okay. I can do that. I can do that. So yeah, oh man. I'm very curious to know your thoughts down below. I liked the premise of this flashback. I want to know more. I'm curious what else we're going to get. It's a very interesting set piece, and the fact that the angels are all in the city together on Earth, and the first is the king of the vampires, and the angels of Earth is interesting. So, But I hope you all have a wonderful week. Please stay safe, take care, and yeah, I'll be back very soon, later this fall, with volume 31 of Seraph of the End.